Hey there, I'm Adalia. At 28, 3 years into what was supposed to be my dream job at my husband's family construction business, I'd come to realize that dream might have been a stretch. Every day felt like a new battle, and not the kind I'd ever anticipated. How was your day, Mark, my husband asked, looking up from the kitchen as I dropped my briefcase by the door. I sighed. Same as always. Your dad's still giving me a hard time about the new accounting software. Mark frowned, a familiar crease forming between his brows. He's just set in his ways. Give him time. Time, that's all I've been giving. But Victor, my father-in-law, the CEO and self-proclaimed expert in how things have always been done, wasn't budging. Sure, the company was financially stable, but operationally, it was stuck in the Stone Age. You wouldn't believe what happened today. I flopped onto the couch beside Mark. I suggested we digitize the bidding process, and Victor looked at me like I'd suggested tearing down the office walls. Mark chuckled. That's dad for you. But I wasn't laughing. The next day, I ran into Emma, my sister-in-law, who, despite our differences, was the only one who truly got what I was going through. How's the modernization crusade? She whispered, leaning on my desk. About as effective as teaching the cat to swim, I replied, rolling my eyes. Just then, Robert, my cousin-in-law and the resident brown-noser, sauntered by. Hey, Adalia, heard you're trying to reinvent the wheel again. Why fix what isn't broken, right? I bit my tongue, holding back what I really wanted to say. If only he knew how unbroken things actually were. Later, that week, we had a company golf outing. I thought maybe, just maybe, a more relaxed setting would make Victor more receptive to my ideas. I couldn't have been more wrong. Victor, I began as we walked to the 9th hole. I've been thinking about our bidding process. If we could just... He cut me off, his voice sharp. Adalia, we've been doing just fine for 30 years. We don't need your newfangled ideas. But if we could just look at... Enough, he bellowed, loud enough for everyone on the course to turn and stare. You think you can waltz in here and change everything. You don't know the first thing about running a real business. I stood there, golf club in hand, my face burning with humiliation as Mark avoided my gaze, choosing instead to stare at the ground. That night, I tossed and turned, reliving every excruciating second. You okay? Mark mumbled, half asleep beside me. Yeah, I lied, staring at the ceiling. Just thinking about work. But lying there in the dark, I realized this went beyond simple resistance to change. Something was wrong, and I was going to find out what it was. Little did I know, I was about to uncover more than I'd bargained for. The weeks after the golf incident were tense. I felt eyes on me everywhere in the office. One morning, as I passed the water cooler, I overheard Robert murmuring to a group of colleagues. I'm just saying, it's weird how she's always poking around in the old files. What's she looking for, anyway? I clenched my jaw and walked by, pretending I hadn't heard, but his words wouldn't leave my mind. That afternoon, I made a decision. I was going to dig deeper into those old files. What I found made my stomach lurch. Mark, you need to see this, I said that night, spreading out the papers across our dining table. There are huge discrepancies in the company's finances from before I started working here. Mark barely looked up from his phone. I'm sure it's just a clerical error, babe. Don't stress over it. This isn't a simple error, Mark. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars unaccounted for. He sighed, finally meeting my gaze. Adalia, please just let it go. You're already on thin ice with Dad. I couldn't believe it. So you want me to ignore potential fraud? That's not what I'm saying, he muttered, looking away. Just be careful, okay? The next day, Victor cornered me in my office. I hear you've been asking questions about our old records. I was just double-checking some figures, making sure everything matches up. Your job, he snapped, is to manage current finances, not dig up the past. Stick to your own work. From that day on, Victor's hostility escalated. He demanded hourly updates, questioned every decision I made, and started CCing Robert on all our email exchanges. Then, one evening as I was working late, as Victor's raised voice cut through the walls of his office, I crept closer, curiosity getting the best of me. You promised this wouldn't be traced back to us, he hissed, each word dripping with tension. My heart raced. Missing funds? This was bigger than I'd ever suspected, and I knew I couldn't face it alone. The next day, I found Emma in the break room. Em, I need a favor, I said, my voice low. Can you help me access some of the really old financial records? She raised an eyebrow, glancing around. The ones in the storage room. Why? I can't explain right now, but it's important. Please. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but be careful. Dad's been on the warpath. Later that week, we gathered for a family dinner at Victor and Martha's house. The tension was thick, and Victor's glares kept landing on me. Finally, he slammed his fork down, making everyone jump. I can't take this anymore, Adalia. What's your endgame here? Excuse me, I asked, taken aback. Don't play dumb, he snapped. The questions, the snooping. Are you trying to take over my company? The room fell silent, everyone watching me. I glanced at Mark, hoping for support, but he just stared at his plate. Victor, I'm just trying to do my job, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Your job? He scoffed. Your job is whatever I say it is, you ungrateful. Dad, that's enough, Emma cut in, but the damage was done. The car ride home with Mark was silent, each second thick with words left unsaid. Finally, I whispered, you could have said something. Mark gripped the steering wheel tighter. What did you want me to say, Adalia? You're the one stirring up trouble. In that moment, I knew I was on my own, but I wasn't backing down. There was something rotten in that company, and I was going to expose it, no matter the cost. A few nights later, Emma and I sat huddled around my laptop, her face pale in the dim light. This is insane, she whispered. How did they think they'd get away with this? They almost did, I replied, but not anymore. Days turned into nights as I compiled evidence, triple-checking every detail. By Friday, I had a report so solid it could withstand a hurricane. I arrived at the office early, gripping my presentation folder, heart pounding. As I got out of my car, the sound of clinking golf clubs made me freeze. Victor stood there, a dark glint in his eye. Going somewhere important, Adalia, he sneered, tapping a golf club against his palm. Victor, save it, he spat. You think I don't know what you've been up to? Digging around in things that don't concern you? You've got it all wrong. If you just let me explain. Explain, he roared, his face turning a shade of red I'd never seen before. Explain how you're embezzling from my company. What? No, that's not. But before I could finish, he lunged at me, swinging the golf club with alarming speed. I ducked, heart pounding, and stumbled back. You ungrateful little thief, he bellowed, swinging wildly as I scrambled across the parking lot, his shouts echoing behind me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw office windows fill with faces, some even holding up phones to record. Help, I screamed, narrowly dodging another swing. Somebody stop him. Finally, two security guards rushed forward, pulling Victor back as I collapsed against a parked car, gasping for breath. This isn't over, he shouted as they dragged him away. You're finished in this town, Adalia. Shaking, I did the only thing I could think of. I called Emma. I'll be right there, she said, her voice tight with concern. An hour later, I sat in Emma's living room, a cup of tea growing cold in my hands as I recounted everything. He's lost his mind, she murmured, shaking her head. We need to go to the police. Just then my phone buzzed. It was Mark. Adalia, where are you? Dad told me what happened. How could you do this to us? My blood ran cold. Mark, you can't seriously believe. I don't know what to believe anymore, he cut me off. But I think it's best if you don't come home tonight, or for a while. The line went dead, and I stared at the phone, disbelief giving way to hot, steaming tears. He believes them, I whispered, my voice breaking. After everything, he still believes them over me. Emma wrapped an arm around my shoulders. I'm so sorry, Adalia. What are you going to do? I wiped my tears, a fire igniting in my chest. I'm going to fight back. I straightened, my voice stronger than I felt. I'm going to clear my name and make them pay for every lie, every stolen dollar, and every moment of pain they've caused. Emma squeezed my hand, her steady presence grounding me, and I'll be right there with you. With Emma's support, I hired a top-notch forensic accountant to validate my findings. When he confirmed everything, I knew it was time to act. I sent an anonymous tip to both the IRS and the FBI, alerting them to the company's financial irregularities. While the investigation unfolded, I focused on rebuilding my life. I launched a small business consultancy specializing in financial systems for startups. It wasn't easy, but word spread fast. Adalia, your system has saved us thousands already. One of my first clients told me the appreciation rekindling the confidence I'd almost forgotten. Months passed, and news of the investigation into Victor's company began making waves. Over coffee one day, Emma gave me an update. "Robert's been shredding documents like crazy," she said with a smirk. "And Dad, he's not handling it well." I tried not to relish their downfall, but it was hard. They had made their choices, and now they had to face the consequences. One evening, as I was locking up my office, I turned and saw Mark. He looked exhausted, dark circles etched under his eyes. "Adalia, please," he began, voice strained. "Can we talk?" I'm sorry. I should have believed you." A pang of hurt cut through me, but I kept it buried. "It's too late, Mark. You made your choice." I turned to leave, but he called after me, voice thick with regret. "I was wrong. Please give me another chance." I didn't stop. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. The investigation dragged on for months, but finally, the truth came out. Victor and Robert were charged with years of tax evasion, fraud. The news broke like a bombshell. Breaking news: local construction mogul Victor Steele and his nephew Robert Steele indicted on multiple charges of financial fraud. I watched the report, stunned. It was finally over. The next day, Emma called me in tears. "Dad's had a heart attack. He's in the hospital," she said, voice trembling. Meanwhile, the company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy under the weight of the penalties. As they fell, my business flourished. I had built a small but dedicated team, and together, we were helping other businesses avoid the very pitfalls that had taken down Victor's empire. A year after that fateful confrontation in the parking lot, I found myself on stage, accepting an award for financial integrity. The lights warmed my face as I held the award, a bittersweet reminder of the journey it had taken to reach this moment. "This award is for all the honest, hardworking financial professionals out there," I said into the microphone. "Never be afraid to stand up for what's right, even when it feels like the whole world is against you." As I stepped off the stage, my phone buzzed with a news alert: Victor and Robert Steele sentenced in landmark fraud case. A small, satisfied smile tugged at my lips. Justice had been served, and I was finally free to write my own story. Now, here's a question for you. If you were in my shoes, would you have given Mark a second chance? When does betrayal become unforgivable? And is there ever a point where family no longer comes first? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your stories and opinions could help someone else facing the same dilemma. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories of resilience and justice. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.